One of those focal points in our communities has actually been the monarch butterfly. There's been campaigns from right here in our community. I know Karen Meebrod out of Keego Harbor, who we mentioned earlier on in the program, has for a long time been an advocate of the state adopting the monarch butterfly as the state insect. And also our friends over at West Bloomfield Parks, big advocates for our friends, the monarch butterflies. Joining us now to talk about the monarch butterfly, as well as some efforts being made by over 365 communities across the U.S. to protect the monarch butterfly, is Lauren Azoury, Park Naturalist Supervisor at West Bloomfield Parks. Lauren, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Tyler. And I love talking about monarchs. It's my favorite topic.
Yeah, we know you love monarchs. That's why we invited you on the show, and especially with such good news coming from our community. As I mentioned, 365 communities nationwide have joined what's called the Mayor's Monarch Pledge Program. This includes communities in our neighboring areas, Troy, Rochester, Rochester Hills, and Sterling Heights, among the communities that have joined this pledge. Calvin and Jared at Master Control, we do have a picture actually of the mayor of Sterling Heights holding his Mayor's Monarch Pledge certificate alongside a member of their beautification committee. If we may be able to show that. That is Mayor Michael Taylor you're seeing on the screen holding that certificate. One of the many communities pledging to help protect the monarch butterfly. But Lauren, you're an expert in this area. You know what the monarchs like and how they're affecting our community. Let's start with why this is such an important conservation effort. What exactly makes monarch butterflies an important part of our ecosystem?
They're kind of what we call the champion of their species. So pollinators in general are important. All bumblebees, all of our solitary native bees, hummingbirds, and butterflies are pollinators, and they all do a really important job for us of creating our food and just keeping the ecosystem healthy and going. But people love the monarch butterfly because it's larger, it's beautiful. So it has become like the cornerstone species, the thing that people think about, even if you're not into nature, like that's the one species you know and you've heard about before. So they have good PR, they have good marketing, and they're also on the endangered species list as well. So they draw attention in that way, which helps people to understand why we're losing them and the importance of them. So monarchs kind of speak for all pollinators in a way. That's their important job in the ecosystem right now. But their pollination is really the main goal that they have in life and what they do for our ecosystem and what they do for us.
And it's not just when they're actual butterflies itself that they're having this sort of an impact. That begins even before they become that full-fledged butterfly and when they're in caterpillar form too.
Correct. So their life cycle is really amazing. It's kind of like a nature miracle. We say it's like nature magic when we're explaining it to kids, because the way that they actually grow and change is just really, really unique and special. All insects go through metamorphosis, but monarch butterflies do it quickly. So when they hatch from their egg, they're actually the size of like your eyelash. And just in a matter of weeks, they grow to about the size of my thumb. So they get much larger as time goes on and very quickly. And they do that by eating only one food source. So their host plant, where the adults lay their eggs, and the only food that the caterpillar will eat is the milkweed plant. Now, there are different species of milkweed. So if you have different habitats, if you have a wetter habitat, you can plant swap milkweed, and they'll utilize that. If you have a prairie-like area or a drier area, they will use common milkweed. And there's lots of different species of milkweed. So they'll use all of those milkweed species, but it's super important because it's the only thing those caterpillars will eat, and they grow super fast on. So they go from that teeny tiny little egg, like the size of a pinhead, all the way to the adult butterfly in less than about a month.
Yeah, I was at a 4th of July get together with my dad's girlfriend and her kids and my brother who's an avid gardener, and he's looking through my dad's girlfriend's plants and some of the herbs that she has in some of her raised beds, and sees some caterpillars, and it's like, I got to put those over on your milkweed over here. He rushed to get them over there and helped them out with it. We got like 3 or 4 of them. It was really cool getting them onto that milkweed. But Lauren, you mentioned that these are endangered species, and we know that human impact has certainly been a threat to so many local species, including these pollinators, including insects like the monarch butterfly. What particularly are some of these activities that may be causing or maybe leading to some of that endangerment that has reduced our population of monarchs in recent years?
Yeah, habitat loss is one of them. So milkweed is a really beautiful plant, but for a long time, it wasn't a traditional plant that you would put in your garden. It grows pretty tall and it does spread. So not every gardener or traditional, English garden that they want this manicured beautiful space was a good fit for them. And we also mow a lot. And traditionally, people like their green lawns, but honestly, it's kind of a wasteland. Green lawns really serve no purpose for our ecosystem other than humans, for some reason years ago, have had this in their mind that you need a green, pretty short grass lawn. So we mow a lot and we take down a lot of plants that people don't tend to like. And that includes milkweed oftentimes. I think it's growing in popularity, which is great to hear more people want to add that into their garden. And we definitely encourage them to do so. So habitat loss is definitely a big part of why the monarch population is declining, but another large factor is pesticide and herbicide use. So I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and they're like, "Oh, I have milkweed in my yard, and it's great, and we love helping the butterflies, but I haven't seen any eggs this year." And then a few minutes later, our conversation is evolving, and they say that they spray their yard for mosquitoes for their kids. And I was like, "Well, there's the connection right there. You're spraying a insect killer on your grass and your lawn. That's why they're not coming to your milkweed." So yeah, the two main factors are herbicide and pesticide use and habitat loss.
We're joined on today's program by Lauren Azoury, Parks Naturalist Supervisor at West Bloomfield Parks. You can learn more about their programs, including those that may help you and your kids learn about insects such as the monarch butterfly, by visiting wbparks.org. And Lauren, this is all connecting back to a really cool story from here in Oakland County, from the Oakland Press earlier on this week, about several communities in our local area here in Oakland County and neighboring communities, Troy, Rochester, Rochester Hills, and Sterling Heights, all joining what's called the Mayor's Monarch Pledge Program, one among many of the communities, over 365 communities in the U.S. joining this pledge of late. In West Bloomfield, there's plenty of conservation efforts that are being spearheaded by West Bloomfield Parks and in partnership with the township, as well as the Environmental Commission and so on, to protect species such as the monarch butterfly. So in terms of what we may see out of these different communities, of course, not knowing from an insider in those communities what exact steps they're going to take, what may be some things that they can do in these communities or that we can do in our communities to protect the monarch butterfly?
Yeah, so West Bloomfield Township, our Township Supervisor, Steve Kaplan, has taken the Mayor Monarch Pledge for 2 years now and plans to apply again in 2024. So you reapply every year. And what that does is it keeps what's happening in your community fresh and new. So that helps us to continue to educate the public. So really the main point of the Mayor Monarch Pledge is to provide habitat for butterflies. So those that apply and whatever townships apply, part of that process is adding pollinator-friendly gardens, using native plants in their general landscaping beds, and then also education. So along with installing those gardens, putting signs up to know why they're there, why they might look different than someone else's garden, what their purpose is, and what they're helping to do. So a lot of the Mayor Monarch Pledge is adding habitat, because as we just discussed, habitat loss is a big part of it. So milkweed is important, but so are all of those other flowering native nectar plants. And it's great to have those plants year round. Obviously not in the winter, but in the early spring when monarchs are arriving, in the late fall when they're leaving. We want flowers that are native and bloom during those times when they're traveling and they need them. They need these little way stations as they go across the country all the way back down south. So a lot of the Mayor's Monarch Pledge is installing new habitat spaces. So our township has put a small pollinator garden as part of their town hall property. And then the other thing they're doing is installing a sign. So public education, hopefully someone that might not be into nature. Maybe they wouldn't want to traditionally visit us at the nature room, but now they're going to town hall because they need, clerk services or postal services. And now they've seen this beautiful garden with a sign and hopefully are inspired to do something similar in their own home or talk to their neighbors about it. So as much as Parks and Rec plays a big role in it, it's great that the township is also jumping on board and doing these educational facilities as well. And helping educate about the importance of monarchs and what we're doing here in our community for that.
And Lauren, you mentioned it. People want to have their lawns nicely manicured. They want to have these nice gardens and displays in front of their homes. And so they're trying to balance using certain chemicals to make that happen, but also protecting the environment and protecting species like the monarch butterfly. What are some of your suggestions in terms of how they can balance those two and maybe even make them coexist?
Yeah, absolutely. We talk about companion gardening all the time. So you don't have to be a purist and only plant native plants. You can start really small. And even myself as a naturalist, purchased my first native plants just like 5 or 6 years ago, and I only bought 2 or 3. And now I've, eventually pulled out my hostas and added in my cardinal flower, pulled out some of my turf grass areas and added a milkweed patch. It doesn't have to happen overnight. And really, truly, sounds kind of silly and cheesy, but if you build it, they will come. So they have these great resources, animal instinct to find your small spaces. So you do not have to have a giant yard space. You could have a patio garden and still provide great nectar sources for these animals. So there's a lot of options out there if you're new to this type of idea. One thing I would definitely encourage, though, is to go with a true native plant grower. So we work with Plants for Ecology. Wild Type is a big grower in the area as well. Because if you go into a big box garden store and say, I'd like a native plant, what they're going to give you is a species similar to a native plant here. So a coneflower bought at a store where it's a cultivar and the greenhouse has adjusted it and changed its genotype, versus a coneflower that has grown in Michigan for hundreds of thousands of years, and our butterflies know that that's a great nectar source, and it hasn't had herbicides and pesticides put on it to grow bigger and prettier, is your best source. So if you want to start, you can start small by adding native plants. Milkweed is obviously a great one, but there's lots of other choices that help our pollinators as well, and to do true native plants from a true native grower.
Lauren Azoury joins us on the program, Parks Naturalist at West Bloomfield Parks. Lauren, we've got about a minute left. Anything else that we haven't discussed on the monarch butterfly that may be important for our audience to know, or ways that they can help with the conservation? I see you got one right there with us. You got the caterpillars.
Yeah, I just thought I'd show you some of our friends here. So we do bring some inside for education purposes. So you're welcome to visit the nature room during our open hours or a lot of our summer programming. We include the butterfly monarch life cycle. We try to sneak in that monarch education wherever we can. So most programs you come and visit us at some point, we do mention pollinators and how to help them. Last week was actually pollinator week. So we've done a few weeks ago was pollinator week. We've done a lot around that. But they're amazing to watch. So they sit by our desks and we can hear them chomping away at the milkweed leaves. And it's really a magical transformation to watch them change from this big caterpillar here to a chrysalis. So yeah, we hope you come visit us at the nature room and learn a little bit more about it. You can visit Town Hall and see what they're working on in their demonstration garden there for pollinators. Hopefully be inspired to plant some of your own plants to help these special creatures out. But yeah, they're really magnificent to see. These are the ones that are in a little bit larger life stage. So they are eating a lot, very, very fast. I always say, if you see nibbles in your garden, don't be upset. It means you're doing the right thing. It means you're working with ecology and it's forming its purpose. So don't spray for nibbles in your garden. They're there for a reason, and that you're doing the right thing if you're getting your garden nibbled on a little bit.
Lauren, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.